So we've all got very pessimistic, apparently, on US interest rates, and the dot plot has lost the plot, apparently, according to many commentators. But in this world where we're suddenly worried about ZIRP and NIRP, which is zero interest rate policies and negative interest rate policies, would it make much difference to the economy in terms of confidence, getting consumer spending, to actually change course from the Fed as well? Does the Fed need to change course? Admittedly, it looks a bit aggressive at the moment.
Well, I mean, you have to look at what Janet Yellen highlighted as her main concerns, which was A, China, and B, the dollar.
But there were upside risks you mentioned as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But if you look right now, I mean, it's quite clear that the Fed, as it has done for, I'd argue, for 25 years or more, remains concerned about the impact that international market volatility has on domestic markets, and worries about a strong dollar. The problem is everybody else is going down the negative interest rate route. Then, frankly, that just brings yet more and more upward pressure on the US or on the dollar. And I think in those circumstances, she's going to start getting a lot of pushback.
Look, I know the strong dollar hurts US exporters, but the vast majority of US corporations are looking inwardly. But this is a country which has huge trade deficits, and despite what someone tried to argue with me the other day, still imports a lot more oil than it exports as well. It is a net importer of product, which is getting cheaper and cheaper with a stronger dollar as well. Surely such a large consuming nation that runs such a large trade deficit with a strongish currency isn't actually going to have a bad time on the back of this.
You would argue exactly that, Steve, but if you look over the course of the last few decades, what's the number one thing that US politicians have argued about? It's always been the strength of the dollar. Go back to 85. Why did we have Plaza Accord? Because the dollar was too strong. The White House was pressured by Congress and by the forces that were bringing pressure to bear on Congress, which was mainly trade bodies, to do something to actually bring the dollar down. So you could argue that a lot of this actually comes down to the political forces within the US.
But the terms of trade are getting better anyway, regardless of what the headline rates are. One of the major problems in China is the fact that you have had such a large increase in wage inflation. So even if you had the currency remaining where it is, and you've got very little in the way of wage inflation, if I don't talk, so nobody's going to be able to talk. Hang on a second. We're running out all kinds of presenters left, right and centre this morning. But the point is, you've got very little wage inflation in the States as well. Quick, get Karen in off her bed. And the Chinese inflation is going up. So your terms of trade are getting better anyway, aren't they?
Yes, they are. But let me put it this way. I think actually the US is on a losing battle here anyway. Because I think right now you're in a situation where there are a significant number of currencies, or actually China in particular, where the downward pressure is going to be substantial. Let's put it this way. Over the course of the last 14 years, there's been a huge flow of money out of the dollar, which has supported a wide range of other currencies, the Chinese renminbi most obviously. And as those dollar outflows dried up in 2014, all of a sudden, all those bubbles, there's the bubble word again, that have been supported by those outflows are disappearing. And nobody at the moment knows how far that is going to deflate. And China's the most obvious one. Actually, for all these things about what the US might or might not want, the one thing that matters right now, I think, is China and quite how much they actually are going to have to let the currency do.